Hey everyone, welcome to Front Page Bets. Mike Szvetitz with Gerry Ahern once again. And, Gerry, we're coming out of, the beginning of the USFL, first kind of weekend in the NBA playoffs. Teams are separating in that. We got a lot going on going into the beginning of, end of April, beginning of May. Baseball's in full swing. NHL's are starting to wrap up. The playoffs start next week for them. It's kind of that season right now where if you're a real sports fan, you got a lot going on to watch, because you usually would say, well, there's no football going on, but there is in the USFL. We'll talk about that in a minute. But like, this is kind of the season from March Madness till really Father's Day, after the NBA and NHL playoffs wrap up, where you can kind of have one day, like Sunday for me was great. The first time in a long time, I sat on the couch for hours and was flipping back between the NBA playoffs, the PGA, the Zurich Classic, Talladega, and USFL. Just working the remote, like back in my old college days, sitting on the couch not getting up. You know what I mean?
They had TVs then?
What's that?
They had TVs then, your college days?
Oh, come on now. Just because I grew the beard out does not. Hey, look at. I know this beard adds 30 years and 40 pounds, but this is the distinguished look, Gerry.
Looks good on you though.
It does look good. You get a free bowl of soup with this beard. So got Caddyshack reference. Don't get me started, but let's not go down that road. But kind of a really great idea, for sports, being a sports fan, really great weekends to have. What was the highlight of your weekend for me? Like I said, Sunday, got a chance to watch NASCAR for the first time in a long time, actually watch it in Talladega. I spent 10 years in Alabama covering, sports around there, college football. And Talladega was always kind of in that mix, twice a year going up there. So for me, it was really cool to be able to watch that, not covering it, but being able to watch it as a fan. I know you had some family obligations, daughter playing volleyball, shout out to the AAU leagues, but yeah, I mean, just being able to sit down and watch sports for a weekend. Hey, I don't know if it gets better than that.
No, and I mean, I think NBA playoffs and soon to come NHL playoffs really ramp things up for most people, because I think a lot of people who aren't hardcore fans of the regular season of those leagues wind up getting interested, because it seems like time and again, you've got overtime games, you've got shootouts, you've got really interesting finishes. And with, our world with sports betting, with the ability to in-game bet now, I think that really heightens people's attention to everything, but particularly those playoff type situations for the NHL and NBA. I'm a big golf guy, as you know, so obviously I was watching a lot of the Zurich. Actually hit on one bet for a change, so that was good. But thank you, Billy Horschel. Yeah, I think it's really, as you said, it's that time of year where there's a lot of options. USFL, let's get into that in a bit, but where's the offense and where are the fans? Holy cow.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's get on it now. Saturday, I turned on the first game. What was it? Philly and Pittsburgh. And
you missed the thrilling Friday night 10-6 game between the Generals and the Michigan Panthers, which set football back to the Newt Rockne era, I believe.
Yeah, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I know you're a huge Panthers fan. I know you're a big, the Michigan Panthers fan. So being up there in
the thing for me, really, the tricky thing for me was finding the USA Network to actually watch the game. Right. Once I got settled in with that, things were really happening.
It was in between Saved by the Bell reruns is when they showed it. They crammed it in USA.
Yeah, I wanted to see if Zach was dating Jesse anymore.
I'll reserve my there's Kelly Kapowski, and then that's it, and then we'll just leave it there. But
she's your number one draft choice, huh?
Always, yeah, no, 100%. Give me a second. Anyway, so we're going back to the USFL, where we've been able to watch football in the spring, but holy cow, Gerry, no fans, right? So Saturday noon kickoff, they showed that there was nobody in there. It looked like when I turned on the TV, I thought it was like the pregame, when the kicker was out there, warming up with nobody out there. There was nobody in there. And having been at Legion Field, I know it's called something else now, but it will always be Legion Field there in Birmingham, where the Iron Bowl used to get played between Alabama and Auburn. But there was no fans, and they start kind of coming in. But you know what? Late April in Birmingham, Alabama, it's not a picnic. And those middle bleachers, it was probably 150 degrees. So I can understand why people were going out. Nice day, but no offense. You know, you watch those games, and I just think for this to sustain itself, and we talked about this last time, you know, it's going to keep harping on a 10-week schedule. The first weekend, yeah, there's a lot of intrigue. It's kind of new. You know, 3 million people reportedly watch it on NBC and Fox. But after that, like I'd like to see the numbers this week, and it too, like it's got to be a good product. And right now, it's not. I mean, the quarterback play is not very good. The offensive play, the running games are terrible. You know, defense obviously when you have teams that are not very good, defenses are always more advanced than the offenses. And they say the biggest jump is from week 1 to week 2. Well, if this is as good as it's going to get, then I don't think this is going to make it.
Well, I mean, I have a theory for what it's worth, and it's got to be disconcerting for the players to look at the stands and see nobody there. I mean, you'd see more people at a JV, you know, high school game.
Right.
And that's got to, I would think, impact focus a little bit, particularly offensively. The one team that looked like they kind of were getting it together a little bit over the weekend was the Sunday game with New Orleans. And their receiver, Jonathan Adams, had almost 100 yards receiving, a couple TDs, nice 2-point conversion catch. So, like, there's some ability in this league, to be sure. But, you know, as you said, having the TV partner in Fox certainly helps. And, you know, that's going to get you on the tube. But I mean, I understand why they're doing what they're doing with playing the games in Birmingham for cost-effective reasons and all those things, but it's kind of hard to build a fan base. I mean, like, you know, I'm in Michigan, and with everything going on in Michigan with the Tigers and with, well, we don't have to worry about the Red Wings or the Pistons in the playoffs, but Michigan and Michigan State wrapping up spring football and everything, like, it's kind of hard to garner attention from fans who have a lot of other options. And, like, you know, I'm watching it because I love football and because it's my job and because we cover betting, but I can't imagine what my level of interest would be if I didn't have those connections to kind of make sure that I get my eye on the ball, so to speak.
Right. And you mentioned it before, the lines move a lot because nobody really knows about these teams. Nobody knows from one week to the other, you know, it's the who's who.
Which from a gambling standpoint makes it a potential, you know, huge value if you're really paying attention.
Yeah.
And the thing that I've noticed that I've kind of whiffed on, I've been great on picking games, but I've been whiffing on the over-unders. Bet the under. I mean, for God's sake, so as bad as these offenses are, it's like, you know, that seems like free money in many cases.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. I was talking to my brothers this weekend. They're like, how do you bet on USFL? I was like, just hammer the under because it, you know.
Or follow my picks.
Yeah, just read Gerry Ahern. You've been on a heater though. I'm not gonna lie. Coming out of March Madness, your NBA playoff picks, you know, the in-game stuff, the props, you're being on it. Speaking of NBA.
Chalk tastes good.
Chalk, hey, when in doubt, right? Just hit the chalk.
Well, it's like, you know, I mean, again, you know, joking around about the betting angles of things though, but like when you're looking at things like that are huge mismatches, excuse me, as some of these playoff games appear to be, the USFL things, now that we've got a little bit more context offensively, what's going on, trust what is in front of your eyes. Like, you know, people are trying to fade the public, and I understand that strategy. People are trying to look for the value bet, you know, but I mean, some stuff is obvious, and like, yeah, you're not going to, you know, refinance the house on one bet or whatever, but, you know, you could certainly find opportunities to maybe have some fun and make a couple of bucks and just pay attention, you know.
It's kind of like that. You know, sometimes I think we try to outsmart ourselves. It's like the offensive coordinator or the coach who tries to get too cute instead of just, hey, run it until they stop it kind of thing, right? So if you're having success.
It's Darrell Bevel in the Super Bowl, not giving it to
right.
You know.
Trying to throw it on the one instead of just letting, you know, Marshawn Lynch take it in. You know what I mean? But I digress. Speaking of the NBA, we have one series that's closed out. Boston sweeps. We talked last week, Kyrie Irving, and how if that would, with the Nets and kind of the fans with Kyrie and the juice that was there, if that would propel Brooklyn as a 7 seed. Obviously, it did not. They get swept. Even though Durant last night, I think at 39, still not able to hold off Tatum and those guys. And I think, you see Boston kind of being able to get through that series. They'll get the winner of Milwaukee and Chicago, which looks like it'll be the Bucks. They're up 3-1 over the Bulls. Some of these series, we've got a lot of 3-game, a lot of series are at 3 games. Dallas, Golden State, the Nuggets held off elimination on Sunday. But probably the closest series is, New Orleans and Phoenix. And who would have thought, the 8 seed, Pelicans hanging at 2-2 with the Suns. And so, again, chalk on some of these, and they're, not trying to outthink yourself. But then again, the Pelicans, they're showing up and tying the series up at 2.
Well, a little help from the officials too. I mean, the free throw disparity the other night was a la some of those NCAA tournament games that had me.
Was Coach K on the sidelines, or are they trying to?
But seriously, I mean, the teams that have impressed me most so far in the NBA playoffs are the Celtics, obviously, because quite frankly, I thought that was going to be a 7-game series potentially. And, you got to give the tip of the cap to Jason Tatum, who just really took games over throughout the series and didn't get, distracted by the Kyrie hype, or, Durant had some great games too. But, the Nets should be a championship caliber team, but with all the off-court distractions, whether it was Kyrie and the vaccine stuff, and Durant had some issues from a health standpoint, they were really held back by that a little bit. I think the Celtics and Golden State, they did drop one game to make that series not a sweep. But those are the teams that, if I were a betting man, and I expect to be in the NBA Finals. Not just because Phoenix is struggling a little bit, but because Golden State's got a rotation now that includes Steph Curry in a different sort of role that he just seems to be thriving in. And that's a team I don't want to play no matter who I am, even the Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, Steph Curry coming off the bench, Steph Curry coming off the bench. Poole's having a great, kind of in that transition. Draymond Green is always going to be solid, and Thompson. But I think a lot of what we're seeing in the NBA, it's the talents are just, they're all talented, but like, when you have that 1 or 2 players that can take over a game and go about their business, I think it's just something that switch flips. And you mentioned being, kind of as you're betting these games and not outsmarting yourself and taking that, Golden State now is favored to win the West. I think it was yesterday, it was like plus 130, where Phoenix now is 280. And I think that, this series, even though I believe they'll take care of New Orleans, and, but I think it scared a lot of people off to say like, is Phoenix for real? And it's looking like Golden State is the Golden State of old.
Well, and you got to remember, Golden State was really battling injuries all season long. I mean, and if you look at the flow of these playoffs and you look at how games are won from a shooting standpoint, Golden State is the team that changed the NBA. I mean, the way they kick the ball out, whether it's, for a corner 3 or deep from the perimeter. I mean, it's a different kind of basketball than you and I grew up with, but it's effective when you have the level of shooter. I mean, even a Draymond Green, who's not a drop dead shooter, he's expected to knock down those shots when it comes, his chance. Klay Thompson and Curry are obviously just like, unbelievable shooters, pure shooters that can do, damage at any time. And I think when you look at that team and you look at the style of play in the NBA right now, that's why you have to really elevate them to the top, just because they invented this style of play and they do it better than anyone else.
Steve Kerr really kind of that's the way he kind of played too.
Steve Kerr wishes he could have played half as well as Klay Thompson or Steph Curry. I mean, he hit the big shot in Chicago, but
yeah, I mean, I think he'd rather play with MJ than. I mean, I don't know. I'm just,
that's interesting. That would be a really interesting video game if you could play like vintage Bulls against vintage Golden State. I'd love to see how that came down. I'd go with MJ and Pippen and Rodman and the gang. I think they're just because I think they would out tough them and maybe punch them in the mouth a little bit. But
Well, they have that game. It's called NBA Jam. Remember that from back in the day?
oh yeah.
We just
Don't forget my man John Paxson.
Yeah, exactly. I always play the Orlando Magic because back then I was living in Florida and it was Shaquille O'Neal and Scott Styles. And
Yeah.
Michigan
State Spartan.
Yeah, so it was always, that was always fun. And then you play with Nash and those guys in the Suns. But yeah, it was all that wow, man. Taking me back, Jared. Yeah, I know I'm old, but that wasn't too long ago.
The beard just got grayer when you were talking.
I lost more hair and it just turned gray over here. Yeah. You know what I was thinking, like I watched the video I did yesterday and I'm not, it's not that bad. It's a lot more gray than I remember. It's been a couple of years since I've grown this out, but I'm thinking we can maybe
it complements the taupe shirt that you're wearing today.
This is Carolina blue. I'm not trying to make any statements, but I'm just saying this is a nice, this is the only thing that was clean this morning when I put it on.
No wonder you were picking Carolina during the tournament. It all comes out now. We got a homer here.
I'm glad you dressed up though, at least.
I got my tracksuit on. Come on, like this, it's clean mostly.
Your finest tracksuit for the front page bet cast here.
This was actually a very nice Nike hoop, not tracksuit, but like pullover kind of deal. So don't give me a hard time.
I know where you are, it's still snowing, so you need to get, you need to stay.
You're not joking, man. The heat went off in the house today. It was like the polar vortex in the Ahern household.
It was 90 degrees in Richmond, Virginia on Sunday. So that's why I was inside watching sports in the air conditioning on my couch, which was a glorious day. We've got a lot more coming this week for front page bets. Jerry, we got the Kentucky Derbies in less than 2 weeks, or actually,
yeah, baby.
We'll have Joe Sullivan on next week to talk about the Derby. We'll share some of our Derby stories, some of our insights into horse racing. I know you got a lot. Joe obviously is got a lot. I
come from a long line of bad horse bettors, all the way back from the island of Ireland.
There you go. So we'll have that for you. We also have the NFL draft. We haven't even talked draft. I know we're running out of time, but we haven't even talked the draft, which is on Thursday this week. Coming up real quickly, is Hutchinson the number one draft pick or not? The defensive end from Michigan, athletic, tough player, really paid his dues, really, shined in the Big Ten where, obviously it's very physical. Think he could play well in the NFL, but there's a lot of offensive tackles, other defensive ends, defensive linemen that are out there. So it'll be interesting to see if Hutchinson really is the top draft pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Now, are you asking me, do I think he will be, or do I think he should be?
Both.
I think he will be. I'm not sure he should be. I think the bottom line for me is fabulous player who really came on mid to end of season and keyed that Michigan run to the college football playoff where they got waxed by Georgia. But he is a special talent and the type of kid who's going to be impressive to, scouts and people who go through the interview process. So I think he will be number one. Time will tell if he pans out in the NFL. I mean, like anybody, but it's tough nowadays where the alternative is, an interior offensive lineman, or an edge rusher rather than, a glory position type quarterback or receiver or even a defensive back in most regards. So, Aidan Hutchinson's not a bad pick, no matter how you look at it. I think he's got the lineage of his dad to go on to. So, that this guy is going to be NFL ready, but I'm not sure I'd make that pick if I was Jacksonville. But I can't really make a huge case for anybody. I mean, I think Thibodeau out of Oregon is an interesting guy too, and a super impressive guy to listen to in interviews and stuff. That's a guy I keep an eye on. I'll give you a dark horse too, personal dark horse, quarterback out of Brown University, EJ Perry. I know this kid, and I've known this kid my whole life because his dad is my best friend growing up, and is currently the high school football coach at Andover High in Andover, Mass, where we grew up. This was a kid, I don't know if you saw the viral video, if you happen to catch that at the combine. He was the kid who was picking up all the junk that the other kids left on the bench at the combine. Started at Boston College, wound up transferring to Brown to play for his brother, another brother, who is a head coach there, also plays hoops, just a fabulous athlete, and a kid who is, gym rat, field rat. He's impressed a lot of people. He had an interview with the Raiders. That may be a guy to take a look at. Obviously not on day one, but I think he's going to get drafted. EJ Perry, look out for him.
There you go. Yeah, you always have to have a player like that who's a locker room guy, team guy, especially at the quarterback position. So we'll keep.
Well, he's got another brother, Johnny Perry, who was the Houston Texans receivers coach under Bill O'Brien. His brother Timmy quarterbacked at Harvard. His sister or his aunt Louise was my prom date junior year. She was a javelin thrower.
There you go.
I love the Perry family, and I really hope EJ gets a shot because he's a heck of a kid.
Well, that's good. And good luck to him. And the draft, you never really know, right? You're hoping to find that, Tom Brady pick in the 6th round. You're hoping to, that you don't have a bust, one of those Ryan Leaf type, bust in the 1st round. So that's why they do it. That's why a lot of these guys, spend months and months, years kind of watching these guys. And so it'll be interesting who pans out. I think, if you're a team like Jacksonville, real quick, if you're a team like Jacksonville, you got Trevor Lawrence, a franchise quarterback who I believe can play well in the NFL. I think he's got all the tools. You build around him, and to get an offensive lineman, Evan Neal from Alabama, or the kid from NC State, get a tackle, maybe build around that. But so if I'm Jacksonville, I know you got to go with what the best available, maybe the best talent on the board that fits your schemes, but would never hurts to get an offensive tackle in the NFL, especially when I can play a left tackle and protect his blind side. So we'll see what happens in the NFL draft coming up Thursday this week, and then it goes through the weekend. We'll have that, and we'll have how that really kind of impacts some of the futures betting in the NFL after the draft. How does that shape up? It'll all be here at Front Page Bets. For Gerry Ahern, I'm Mike Szvetitz. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.